You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
What's going on, everyone? I appreciate you tuning in to another show here. This is the Flip Empire Show, and my name is Alex Pardo. So if this is the first time tuning in, or maybe you just recently discovered the show, thank you for tuning in. I've been blessed and fortunate to have been the host of this podcast for over 7 years now, and this is episode 709. And so we've covered a variety of topics throughout the years, and I've interviewed some incredible guest experts. Every single person who comes on here is vetted and can bring something new and refreshing, or something that's not new, but it can be a different perspective for you. And oftentimes that's what you need. And that's really where these solo shows come in. I really enjoy hopping on this and just kind of sharing what's on my heart, what's going on in my world, whether it's business, personal, family, or anything in between. And I think what you'll always find from me, my promise to you, is I'm always going to keep it real. I'm always going to be very transparent, upfront. What you see is what you get. And those are core values that I live by, and it served me well throughout the years. And I think it's one of the things that distinguished this podcast from some other really, really good podcasts out there. With that said, I want to go ahead and dive into what I really want to talk about on today's show. Dig your well before you're thirsty. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that because I think it's important and it's worth repeating. Dig your well before you're thirsty. You might be thinking, Alex, what do you mean? Dig your well before you're thirsty. Make sure that you are planting seeds. Make sure that you are having conversations with the right people before you're ever in need of something. Now, I want to preface what I'm about to get into is that if you know me, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you might know that one of my favorite books is The Go-Giver. You might know that there are principles that I strive to live by, of always giving and contributing without the expectation of getting something in return, right? Knowing that the laws of reciprocation, generally speaking, are going to tip in your favor. And if they don't, that's cool because it feels good and it's the right thing to do, at least in my opinion. I always strive, I'm really big on relationships. And I think the most valuable capital you could possibly build and raise, quote unquote, is relationship capital. And when you do it with the heart of giving, service, and contribution, without doing a tit for tat, I did this for you, now you do this for me, you're going to have more joy, fulfillment in your life. It's going to feel cool. You're going to have incredible relationships. And you might find yourself in a pinch or in a situation where you want to bounce something off of someone or you want to connect with someone, and you have an army of people that are there at your beck and call. Why? Because they know that you're a giver. They know that you've added value to their life. They know that you're always there for them when they need something. So I want to go ahead and preface everything I'm about to say with that. Now, I literally just got off a conversation with a good friend of mine who I have known for, what am I? I'm 43 now. We've known each other, I don't know, since I was 4 or 5 years old. So almost 4 decades I've known this particular individual, and our families are close. And when I closed on my last storage facility, he reached out to me and he's like, dude, I know you've gotten involved in storage over the last couple of years, and it seems really interesting. Like, how can I get involved? And we had a brief conversation about it, right? And that's one of the things I'll share with you either later on this podcast episode or maybe even on the following podcast is I didn't dive right in and just made him drink water through a fire hydrant, right? Like, I didn't bombard him with all this information. This is somebody who's not in the real estate space, but he's sitting on some cash that he wants to put to work. And so I kind of just whet his appetite. And I didn't do that strategically. I just did that because it's not in my nature to just start overloading someone with information and start like following them to invest with me or to get involved in opportunities. That's got to come from that person. But I did enough to whet their appetite. I planted a seed with him, and I left the ball in his court. And several months go by, and he follows back up with me this morning. And he goes, dude, I really, really want to have a conversation with you about essentially like how I can grow my money, how I can put my money to work. And I said, well, look, why don't we do this? Let's have a conversation now, but why don't we schedule some time next week so we can just carve out the time. I can answer all of your questions and I can just kind of walk you through the process. And really, that call hasn't happened yet, but I've done enough of these calls to know that really what it's going to be, it's about educating him on how he can put his money to work and fully disclose that, dude, you know me, you've known me for almost 40 years. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. Like, do your due diligence, vet every single investment you get involved in. If we decide to do something, do it because you understand what you're getting involved in. You understand all the risk up front. You understand what the potential upside is. Don't do it because you trust me, right? But I know that he's coming to me because he trusts me. We've built that relationship over almost 40 years. And you might be listening to this saying, well, man, that's a long time to build relationships. I'm doing that with a lot of people. I'm just investing into the relationship, whether I meet you today or whether I've known you almost my whole life. So anyways, we scheduled a call and I continue to just kind of whet his appetite, right? What I didn't do was start diving into all of the details, right? But I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in this part of the conversation and I'm going to circle back to it. When I said dig your well before you're thirsty, there's a lot of changes happening within the current landscape, the economy. There's many wise individuals who believe that we are in for a bumpy ride in the next 6 to 12 months or so. Now, I know many of you have probably been hearing that, but I want to make sure that you guys are prepared for a turn, a shift. And I know you've likely heard the stat that, most millionaires have been made during down markets. And I think that's true for the most part. And you can make money and thrive and do well regardless of what the market does. But I think you need to be prepared. So if you're listening and you're a real estate investor, which chances are you are, and you might be a fix and flipper, you might be a wholesaler, you might be a commercial investor, whatever the case might be, is life and business becomes so much easier when you have a plethora of private funds, private lenders available to you, because every single real estate transaction, no matter how you slice it, has to get funded in one way, shape, or form, right? Now, for people that are not in the real estate space, which is, the majority of the population, they only know one way to go out and fund a real estate deal. How is it? Traditional bank financing, right? They go to a bank and they apply for a mortgage. They get a pre-qualification letter, pre-approval letter, whatever you want to call it. And they go through the process of likely working with a mortgage broker who's working with a bank to line up financing at a particular interest rate over 30 years or whatever the case might be. Most people only know one way to buy real estate. Now, if you're listening to this, if you've been plugged in, you've gotten educated, whether it be through me or through others, and you know that there's multiple ways to fund real estate deals, right? So let's kind of go through the gamut. You have traditional bank financing, right? You have creative financing, right? Seller financing, owner financing. These are awesome ways to get involved with deals with little to no money, right? And essentially the seller becomes the bank. The seller will finance the purchase price for you. And this podcast isn't getting into creative financing, and we've done plenty of podcasts on that in the past, and we'll continue to do it because it's an extremely powerful tool to have in your tool belt. So there's creative financing, then there's hard money, and then there's private money, and there's other different ways to structure deals. There's different joint venture deals and things of that nature. But I see so often, especially on social media, the term private funding thrown around by hard money lenders. And there's a big difference and distinction between hard money and private money. One of the easiest ways, I think, to explain it and for you to understand it is that a hard money is in the business of lending money. 9 out of 10 times, if not 100% of the time, the hard money lender, a true hard money lender, is going to set the rate and terms, and you're abiding by their rules, so to speak. You're playing their game, right? They set the terms, they set the rate. Oftentimes, they're going to require you to have quote unquote skin in the game, i.e. they're going to want you to have some money in the game. Oftentimes, they want to see that you have some level of experience. And if not, the rates might be significantly higher. There's going to be points or origination fees up front. They might require you to pay for an appraisal. They're likely going to check your credit, especially if you haven't built a relationship with a hard money lender. Generally speaking, these are hard money lenders. High rates, they set the terms, they set the rate. Now, if you're a fix and flipper and you've worked with a hard money lender, you know that they're going to lend X% LTV. You're going to have to put some skin in the game. And then you're going to have to likely fund the construction cost, and they'll give you draws over time. So that's a hard money lender. Hopefully I've done a decent job of kind of explaining in a nutshell what a hard money lender is. Now, what is a private lender? A private lender is a normal dude or dudette. I think I just made up a word. A normal individual who's got funds that, like my buddy, and they want to put it to work, right? They're not in the business of lending. They may or may not be in real estate. And you, as the borrower, you, the knowledgeable, savvy, experienced real estate investor, get to educate your private lender on how this works. You get to educate them on the risk up front. Again, being very transparent. One of the things I like to do when I have a conversation with a private lender is I like to start the conversation with putting a spotlight in the pink elephant in the room, right? Because I know in the back of their mind, they're thinking, they might be afraid. They might be thinking, hey, I've worked hard for this money, and they have. And it's a responsibility that you as a borrower need to take very, very, very highly. I treat my private lenders and people that work with me, I treat their money, I would say, better than even my own money. Now, I treat my money really good, don't get me wrong, but I treat theirs even more because I have a responsibility to them and to the relationship. So I like to start the conversation with addressing the risk involved, right? Because in the back of their mind, private lenders are more concerned with getting a return of their money. And secondarily, they're concerned about getting a return on their money. I'm going to go ahead and I want to highlight and underscore that. A private lender is more concerned with getting a return of their money. They want their money back. They want their principal back. They've worked long and hard for that. They don't want to lose that. Second, of course, they want to grow their money. They want to return on their money. So one of the first things I do after I've planted a seed, whet the appetite, scheduled some time because I want that person in the frame of mind that, hey, this is what we're going to discuss. You've reached out to me. There's a certain level of interest. I generally speaking don't have those conversations by the water cooler, so to speak, like on a fly. Oftentimes I like to set up some time for that. And I'll use the water cooler analogy to kind of plant the seed, to whet the appetite. So when we've carved out that time, I want to first address the risk. Dude, what are the risks involved if you decide to become a lender? Well, one of the things that come to mind is I can be a complete fraud, for example, right? You can lend money to me or to somebody else and they can go out and steal your money. So I walk them through, here's how you protect yourself from that. Now, again, when I'm having these conversations with people, these people trust me. They know me. They're coming to me because they value me, respect me, trust me, and they know I would take care of them and never do anything to hurt or harm them. So always, 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 I don't think this needs to be said, but I'm going to say it anyways. Always operate with integrity, even when it's not convenient, even when it might not be to your best interest. Always put their interest in front of yours, or at least alongside yours, right? Because it's a two-way street. And so I walk them through the risk, right? I walk them through the fact that we're working with an attorney or a licensed title company. I'm letting them know that money is not touching my hands unless I'm overfunding a deal for construction cost or anything like that. You know, I walk them through the whole process. I say next, well, what happens if we close and a hurricane, let's say we're in Florida, a hurricane, God forbid, wipes this property off the face of the earth? Or we're in California and brush fires just burn the house down. I walk them through the fact that we always have insurance on these properties. And then you as the lender are listed as a loss payee, additional insured. And I show them the evidence of insurance. So I educate them. I walk them through the risk before I ever get to what the deal looks like and what the potential upside could be. One thing that's super important is as you have conversations with private lenders, never speak from a matter of fact. Never speak from a place of, hey, and tell them, hey, you're 100% going to experience appreciation, as an example. Or you're 100, like, you don't know. Nobody's got a crystal ball. Always talk, hey, this has been my experience. Hey, this is what I believe will happen. Hey, this is why I think this is a good deal. And walk them through it, lay out your case. But make sure that I think what a lot of people do is they have a conversation with a potential private lender and they just focus on the massive upside of the deal. They don't address any of the risk involved. And I think you're turning off, if you're having that type of conversation, I think you're turning off the person you're speaking to and you're doing them a disservice because they need to have the full picture. Again, they're entrusting you. They're coming to you because you are giving them an opportunity to put their money to work, right? That's one of the other differences, if I haven't mentioned it already. You as a savvy or somebody who's in real estate or is looking to work with private lenders, you generally speaking get to set the rate and the terms. Remember how we talked about a hard money lender is the one that sets the rate and the terms? You are the one that gets to set the rate and the terms, and you get to walk them through this process. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in the podcast here. And if you want to hear more, if you want me to elaborate more on what these conversations look like and how you can go find private lenders, let me know, reach out to me on social media or send me a message. Hopefully this podcast will get you excited about digging your well before you're thirsty. We'll get you excited about planting seeds with people and making sure that you have private lenders who know, like, and trust you, that want to work with you. And if you're thinking to yourself or you're not sure where to start, I would have you, if you're looking at this, I just grabbed my iPhone, or if you're listening to the podcast, I just grabbed my phone, your contacts, right? Start reaching out to people and don't reach out to pitch them on this, but make sure that you're putting yourself out there and that people know what you do, right? People know that you're involved and that you're always looking for deals. And remember, you're presenting opportunities to them. You're not out there trying to hunt for private lenders. You want them coming to you, not you going out and hunting for private lenders. And I think there's a way to do both in a way in which you're still presenting the opportunity to them. So hopefully you gain something from this particular podcast episode about private lenders. Private lenders is how I funded my last storage facility that I purchased in Mississippi. And it was one of the easiest deals I've ever funded. It literally took less than 3 or 4 conversations with a couple of different individuals. And I got the entire thing funded, 7 figures of a deal funded because of the relationship. So if you take nothing else from this podcast and you just get the fact that it's all about the relationship capital and it's all about being transparent, direct, be yourself, good things will happen. Okay. And by the way, if you go to flipempire.com and you use the search bar, which as an FYI, that website is being completely revamped, rebranded, and more on that in upcoming episodes. But I recently, probably within the last couple of months, a podcast was released on how to raise the most important and valuable capital to grow your life and storage, or to grow your life and business. And it was about relationship capital. So check out that podcast. In fact, on the new site, you're going to have an opportunity to watch the entire presentation. And I've just been so blessed and grateful and fortunate to have gotten so much positive feedback from that talk. And I really believe if you lean into building relationships with the right people, your life can change. So with that being said, have an incredible day. Thank you, by the way, for those of you who have subscribed. The show continues to grow. And for those of you who have been reaching out, wanting to know more about Ascend, we are about a month out from our next upcoming mastermind retreat in Miami. So if you have any interest in having a conversation, reach out to me on social media, send me a DM or whatever the case might be, or you can just go to ascendyoursuccess.com, ascendyoursuccess.com. Have an awesome day. Go make things happen, and we'll talk soon. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed that Flip Empire episode and got a lot of value out of it. Make sure to check the show notes page for any resources that were mentioned. And speaking of resources, honestly, I don't think I've done the best job of sharing with you my top curated, highly recommended tools and resources that I use in my business or have used in my business. In some cases, these are affiliate relationships with people that I highly trust and respect. And I know these tools and resources can help you and your business go to the next level. And as an ethical bribe, if you decide to try out one of these resources using my link, I will go ahead and send you an unadvertised bonus. I'll send you something of high value. All you got to do is shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com. Go ahead and let me know that you that you tried out this resource, and however I can help you getting started with that, chances are that I know it very, very well and currently use it or have used it. So make sure to check that out, flipempire.com/resources. And if I can be of help or service to you in any way, just shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com, and I will do anything I can for you. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next show.